Hello friends, we are here in Acts chapter 10. Now, here in Acts chapter 10, something really amazing is happening. God speaks to a man named Cornelius. Cornelius is a centurion. It says that he is from the Italian regiment? Cohort. The Italian cohort. There's a very respected cohort. Think of like SEAL Team 6, very respected. And he was a God-fearer, which means that he believed in, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He believed in the true God. And it must have been difficult to be a God-fearer at that time, because the promise and basically all the religion was just for the Jews. So as a God-fearing Gentile, you really had to sit outside and just knowing that the true God is the God of a certain people, and that you could never be one of those people, that you weren't born into that promise. But he's a centurion, which means that he was kind of oppressing the people of this promise. And on the other side there was Peter. And so God told Cornelius to come and find a man named Peter, Simon Peter, who's at the house of Simon the tanner, and he's in Joppa. So he sends people out there to find Peter for him, to bring him to his house in Caesarea. Now, that's like a good week's journey. So when they're just about coming, Peter gets this vision of a bunch of animals coming down on a sheet. I often wonder about the sheet. I think the reason for the sheet is that it's supposed to be kind of like a tablecloth, or maybe like a picnic blanket or something. It's presented as food, and God even says, "Kill and eat." And all the food that was shown here was what was considered to be unclean food, things that Peter would have never eaten. The laws that were set in the Old Testament were put there to set the Jews apart from the Gentiles. And so he's seeing God telling him to kill and eat, and he's saying, "Not so." It's funny, there was a part in Jesus' life where he's saying "not so," and Jesus says, "Get behind me, Satan." But here he says, "Not so." And then God gives him the vision 3 times. It must have been very hard for Peter. If you know something's wrong your whole life, and then something comes around and you think that God's telling you it's right now, it's kind of hard to shut that off. So he's really struggling with this idea. But at the same time, God basically tells him, you're gonna be met by these people. And so there was someone at the door, and so sure enough, he goes to Caesarea. The big deal about the vision is not necessarily that Peter was going to eat the food that he shouldn't eat, but it was more so that Jews, because they were set apart, they really weren't even allowed to eat in the house of someone who was unclean. And so God's telling him, I want you, this whole thing that I'm setting you apart, I'm going to set you apart in different ways. But in this way, I need you to go to the Gentiles. So Peter goes to the house of Cornelius, and he says, I see that God's not showing partiality. The question in both of their minds really is the promise of God's love and God's salvation does this extend to the Gentiles now in the light of Jesus? And I don't think either of them really knew, but I think, especially on Cornelius' side, he probably wanted that more than anything in the world. So Peter starts preaching to him a very simple message. He preaches that Jesus is the King, he's the Messiah. He did all these miracles and he died and he rose again. And he says, trust in this and you will have forgiveness of sins. And it said right after that, they all started speaking in tongues and the Holy Spirit came upon them. And it showed that the Jews were amazed. And I bet that Peter probably wasn't amazed as much as the people that the Holy Spirit just came upon. So this is the first time in the Bible that it's showing that the Holy Spirit has come upon Gentiles. And I think this was written because this book was written by Luke to Theophilus, and they were all, they were both also Gentiles. And so this part probably warmed the heart of Theophilus, the reader, and to Luke more than any other part, because it's showing that salvation is for us. It's not just for other people. It's not just for the good people. It's not just for a certain race. Salvation is for you. It's for anybody who really trusts in Jesus. After that, they were baptized right away. It's interesting that they received the Holy Spirit first, and then they were baptized. But yeah, this is a really glorious passage where it shows that salvation is for you. All right, that's Acts chapter 10. Have a great day. Bye.